It's time for you to cross over. It's time for you to give in to temptation. It's time for you to embrace the dark meat of veganism. It's time for us to embrace Seitan. Yes, welcome to the Vegan Life podcast. It's from Vegan Life magazine, and it's the podcast that's all about vegan, plant-based food and how to play with it. And seitan, vital wheat gluten, it's an extraordinary substance, something I've dabbled with a little bit myself, and I've had varying results, varying from a flavored loaf of bread to a possible facial sponge. So I'm deeply excited to meet our expert chefs for this week and tap into their skills. Let's meet them now. Giana Pinero is the author of 10 Vegan Weekend Meals. She's also a YouTuber and blogger, Chef Jana, and makes amazing comfort food. Steve Swindon is the MD and co-founder at Love Seitan, the UK's leading manufacturer of seitan products. And Brian Manowitz, aka the vegan black metal chef, is the author of the Satanic Spellbook. He's also a YouTuber, and his cooking show is quite unique. It's set in a dungeon with metal music playing in the background whilst cooking amazing vegan food. All of you, welcome. We've got lots of questions about making seitan, which, to the uninitiated, it's a... Well, Brian, how would you describe it?
How would I describe seitan?
Yeah.
I would describe it as wheat protein, and it's the thing that everyone's afraid of. It is wheat gluten. It is pure wheat gluten. So if you're gluten-free, it is the opposite of that. But otherwise, it's a vegan meat, basically, that is delicious and very meaty tasting.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we've got some great questions, and I'm going to jump straight in. Don't forget, you can always email a question about vegan food to us. It's podcast@veganlifemag.com. And Lauren says, I always struggle with the texture of seitan, and it always comes out like bread. Where am I going wrong? Which kind of feeds into Gabriel's question, which is just, how do you prep and cook seitan, as there are so many different ways? I'd like to know the best take on making it. Some people boil it, then they bake it, then they roast it, then they get a steamroller and run it over. Let's jump in and see how you guys do it. Steve, why don't we start with you?
So, we make it in a factory. So we make
Top tip, buy a factory.
Buy a factory, or just buy seitan, don't make it.
Do you know any good? Yeah.
The traditional way to make it is you'd make a dough out of with a flour called vital wheat gluten, which is had all the starch removed, or you can use normal flour and you rinse the dough under running water, and it rinses the starch out and it makes it go all sort of activates the gluten.
I've always assumed that it's just going to disintegrate if you make bread dough. That whole thing of washing dough seems mad. I took mine into the bath with me, and it didn't go well.
Not sure if that will work though.
But the flavour was incredible.
Try.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You can wash it.
That's okay. So you'd get vital wheat gluten. That's what you'd use, and you'd make the dough, and then you'd knead it. You sort of really make sure you knead it properly, and then you'd heat it somehow, either in a pan of boiling water or in a steamer. I've even made it in a bread making machine. It does work. It can work there. But I think the question is always comes up like bread. I think what Lauren means is it has lots of air pockets in it, like bread. I think that's probably what it means, and it's hard to know what she's doing because it's never happened to me.
Yeah, never happened to me either. So I've had several problems, but Jana? That one wasn't one of them. And I must say, sorry to interrupt you, Steve, but the first time I heard about seitan was through Brian on his channel 9 years ago. I was like, what is this bloody thing? I need it in my life. And ever since, that was amazing.
Oh, wow.
Brian.
Incredible. Did you, Steve, you were making seitan before you set up your company?
Yeah, well, my other co-founder Nick, he's the Seitan-Meister. He's the one who developed the recipe. He's been making seitan for years. So for quite a long time, we made it in his kitchen, using his tried and trusted method. And then we moved into a bigger kitchen.
Yeah. Does that mean he got to choose the tunes that were on as well?
He did. Yeah,
I see that. Yeah. It's amazing. You're still together. That's brilliant. What's his musical taste like? Is it any good?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. I don't remember. I was in his kitchen a few times. Obviously, I've been in his kitchen a lot of times. I don't remember music being played. I don't know. Okay. I don't know.
Well, they say you block out trauma. Jana, tell me, what do you sequentially then? What do you do with your seitan? I'm guessing you follow Brian, right?
Yes, I did. So he's the one that's guilty for making me put a few inches on my waistline because I was addicted to the bloody thing. I mean, really, because I was experimenting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was experimenting because it's so versatile. It is. I mean, you can do anything meat-like with it. But one thing that I found out through my experiments was that once you prepare it, the best way to prepare it is to prepare it separately and then add it to the food. As in, if you're making a stew, for example, so you fry it or you pan-sear it, and then later you add it to your stew. Because this way you make it, actually you lock all the flavors inside instead of making like a soup, like stew that it's going to be a mess. I've tried many times making beef bourguignon with that, and it was amazing. Then I boiled everything together, simmered everything together, and it was a disaster. So the best way, if I would give an advice to someone, would be to cook it separately, for sure, on any recipe.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to seal it. Otherwise, it soaks up the liquid and it goes very spongy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian, tell me, what are the processes? You've got your vital wheat gluten flour, the special high protein flour.
Yeah, exactly. And quite honestly, I think I use, in my opinion, what I've seen, essentially the most simple method that I've seen. You take vital wheat gluten and you take some powdered vegetable broth or liquid vegetable broth, but I like to use powdered vegetable broth. Yeah. You just you have a little pile of vital wheat gluten powder in a bowl, and you mix in some amount of like powdered vegetable broth or liquid vegetable broth, and then you just mix it with some water, and you add just enough water to make it just wet. Like I don't make it like utterly sopping, but like so that when you mix it together, that it's just wet. I don't even freak out about how much I need it. Just mix it together and make a dough. Just do it. The more you freak out about the technicalities, the less
I'm on the edge, Brian.
The less you're gonna do it. And but there is a slight method to it. I do these steps that I'm telling you now first. So I make the little dough ball of the vital wheat gluten and vegetable broth, and then while that's just sort of sitting there and resting, then I'll go boil a really large pot of water, and then I'll add some vegetable broth to the water and either some soy sauce or salt. So it's just vegetable broth and salt, basically. And then after that starts boiling, then I'll cut that dough ball into a couple sections, and each of those little sections are going to expand out 3 times as big, at least.
Okay.
And then you drop those sections into the boiling water, cover it, and reduce the heat down, but keep it simmering for about just under an hour, about 50 minutes or so, or even an hour. It doesn't really matter. And then the pieces will expand out and they'll puff out, and then after about an hour, you have what I call sort of the raw seitan, even though it's not raw, but that's like the raw pieces that you'll then saute or batter and fry and or do things with. And I just tell people, saute it really well, or fry it really well. Like when you think it's like. A lot of vegan meats look like they're done very quickly in a sense. And maybe they're done in the sense that they're not going to kill you or they're not going to harm you. But for like maximum flavor, I saute it really well. and then then you can add it to whatever it is.
It's all about the caramelization, isn't it?
Yeah. No, totally.
Has caramelization ever been a word used in a bad context? I can't.
I can think of it. No.
I can think of some horrific ones now. I think about it. Okay, never mind. But you say that your lumps of dough, you boil them and they expand to 3 times their size.
Yeah.
Does that mean that they're kind of full of pockets? Are they quite spongy?
I mean, it's I would describe it as the texture of like when you bread it and fry it. Think of it like a fried chicken sandwich sort of texture, but like a chicken patty sandwich. At least that exists here in the U.S. all over the place, where it's I don't know, what I used to call particle chicken back when I ate that crap.
So is it like when I'm sorry, I'm being so, but I've made seitan several times, and I really, and as simple as you're making it sound, and you are, and it's amazing. I want to make sure I've got every step of this right. So you boiled it, you take it out, and then do you rest it? Do you let it cool? What do you do?
I mean, if you let it cool, it will if you let it cool, it will, I guess, get a little thicker.
Yeah.
Okay. Like it won't get quite as soft.
Do you leave it in the broth?
Which is fine. Yeah. I leave it in the broth and put it in the fridge, and I prefer it after it's been chilled. But if you're impatient, you can use it right away too.
Amazing.
It shrinks quite a bit, doesn't it, Brian? After it cools down and it gets firmer?
It'll expand out, and then it'll shrink down a bit, but it'll still be bigger than the original pieces that you cut. Yeah, significantly bigger.
All these years, I've been like boiling it and then like putting it in a cheesecloth and making it really tight to try and stop it expanding, and then taking it out and roasting it. And
I mean, if you want to make it really dense, then instead of boiling it, just sort of I form it into just like a log and wrap it in foil, and then you can bake it for like an hour or so at 350 or so degrees Fahrenheit or whatever that is in Celsius. And but that'll make it really dense. And if I were to intensely flavor the seitan before that, maybe I'll do it like that. But honestly, I prefer the softer sort of chicken sandwich consistency.
Amazing. Okay, well, that's it. Thanks for coming, everyone. No, let's.
You're off to make your own seitan now, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, about an hour, you make a week's worth of meat in a sense. Like,
and it will keep for a week. Will it keep for? It'll keep for a week.
Oh, easily.
You can fry it again afterwards. You can freeze it.
Definitely.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So, Elena asks, I've just started using wheat gluten in my cooking because my husband ordered 25 kilos of the stuff last month. She says, I know, don't ask. How's everything, Elena? I'd like to try all different kinds of meals and not just eat the same foods all the time. At the moment, I have made sausages and burgers from it. Can I have some inspiration, please? So that's a good question. So, this is the lump thing. Do you do other shapes and forms and stuff? Jana, tell me what you do with yours.
Practically everything. You can make like a mincemeat of sorts if you put it in a food processor. That's my favorite because it's easy and fast, and it will soak up all the flavors you put in, basically. Or another method that I love, which is shaving it really thin, so you can make some sort of a Mongolian beef. So it's really, really thin. It's really fast to make. But I think that it's endless. The possibilities are endless. Just use your creativity.
Tell me about Mongolian beef, because I haven't had beef in 35 years.
I'm pretty sure it's not. They don't have it in Mongolia. It's just.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sure.
It's like some Chinese foods that are in America and in Brazil that they never heard of. Like, what? What's that? No, we don't have that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's basically chives and some sticky soy sauce, some sort of a chili, and that's that. Super easy.
That sounds really. And so is that just like you mix it in with the sauce and then saute it in that to glaze or something?
10 minutes, done. Not even that. Yeah.
Wow. Steve, tell us about your love seitan. What kind of forms and shapes do yours come in?
The other thing as Jana was talking, I was thinking was breading it breading it and frying it is really good. I mean, it's you can and then particularly if you do it as like a flat sort of almost like an expanded burger, bread it. And I don't know what you'd use to stick the breadcrumbs on. I guess like a soy milk or a flour and water mixture. Just stick it, obviously, because we don't use eggs. And then fry it, and then have a katsu sauce on it with some rice. That's really, really good. Yeah, really good. But got to make sure it's quite a thin section. Because you want it. You know, traditionally katsu is a katsu chicken dish. You want to imitate sort of a chicken breast type consistency. It goes really well. It's really good like that.
And do you have you got a mince kind of ground beef product going?
So we do. We don't offer it as retail. I mean, we can offer it. We do mince it up. Seitan's quite firm, so it doesn't really mince. So you shred it. You shred it really finely, either in a blender. You can do that at home. Actually, you can shred it in a blender at home. Because if you put it through a mincer, it just wouldn't go through. It just would, unless it was a big industrial thing, which nobody has at home.
I'm going to get one though.
The other thing is, I have made it in a bread machine, as I mentioned earlier, and it works surprisingly well.
So how do you do that?
Well, traditionally Seitan, you have a dry mix and a wet mix, and you make the dry mix up, which is gluten, flour, herbs, spices, gram flour, and
see, now you're getting kinky now. Now you're throwing in different flours. Brian was all like, just get the gluten and check. Now you see we're getting into the dark arts, Steve.
And then on the liquid side, it's water with a bit of soy sauce or a broth. And then you just, I don't know if you're familiar with how a bread machine works. You stick it all in a chamber with a little paddle at the bottom, press the button, and it kneads it. Because the gluten's quite tough, you've got to sit on top of it and keep scraping the sides down, otherwise it will just gum the machine up. Right. And I've made it a couple of times, and it makes almost like a meatloaf texture because it's been well kneaded, and as it cooks, it rises, then it falls a little bit, as we were saying. As it cools, it falls. It creates this kind of really nice, dense, almost meatloaf texture. That was really nice. I've made that before.
That's awesome. We've sort of strayed into Jackie's question, which was, can I have a tip to get mince or ground beef? I hope that helps. Brian, do you shred yours?
Do I shred it? I mean, I guess if I wanted kind of a mince or ground beef thing, I would just cut it up real small, and I mean, because it's already got that sort of texture, and then just saute it from there. Again, really emphasizing the fact that of what Jana said, saute it separately, really well first. And you can even spice that up while it's sautéing, at the end. But don't just, even though it looks fine and it'll taste okay, but to get the real maximum flavor, to get the really wow, that is meaty and awesome and crispy on the outside and and spectacular, then really saute it really well first.
Sure.
And separate. To your sauce.
Yeah, exactly, and separately. And what was the original question, though? I completely forgot.
I can't remember. Oh, so we were looking for inspiration for different kinds of meals. So
we'll help her get through 25 kilos.
25
We've probably got about 5 kilos worth so far. So
I'm trying to imagine 25.
The other thing you can do as well, you can, if you've got a log shape, you can, those things you use for peelers, you can drag it along the top and create sort of thin sort of shreds, almost like kebab meat. That works really well as well.
That sounds good.
And put it in a pita bread with a bit of salad and sauce and a bit of chilies. And that's really nice.
So there you go.
And one bit that you might not want to hear is that's a lot. And there's a lot of different things to eat in this world. And so maybe and that vital wheat gluten flour will last for quite some time. I've never personally had it go bad on me, but I've never stored that kind of amounts for that amount of time. So I would definitely make and eat it a decent bit, but mix things up a little. Like
I'm wondering, have any of you had any, like, I'm just thinking 25 kilos, where, what do you do?
You build a house.
Have you made jerky? Build a house. Have you had any, have you experimented with making jerky? Because that's something I've always kind of wanted to try, like seeing if I can dehydrate it a bit.
Yeah, I did. We were talking last week about whether I've got a dehydrator. Actually, I'm going to have a crack at putting some in there because, seitan is, essentially water and flour. So if you get, or you reduce the water, which is what dehydrating does, then it's going to get chewy like jerky. So no reason why it wouldn't work. It's worth. I'm going to give it a go. So it's worth trying. Again,
awesome.
Make it thin, shred it thinly or slice it thinly.
Yeah.
And lay it in a dehydrator. Yeah. It should work. You might have to put a bit of oil on it or something.
I was going to say, do you ever add oil to your mixes, Brian? Like when you're mixing up the...
I saute it in lots of oil or deep fry it. And so, like it'll because seitan is very low in fat. All right, like there's really not much oil or fat in there. Yeah. So you have to add it in there. I mean, with the cooking process or whatever or whatnot.
You had me at deep frying.
Yeah.
It makes everything good.
I agree with you.
And that's actually a really fast way and easy way to make the seitan. Even like you can either bread it and deep fry it or just chop it up and deep fry it. And that is a really fast and easy way to make it.
That's once you've boiled the lump.
Yeah, once you boil everything, as I said, like all the other process makes your raw seitan, even though it's not raw. That's your raw bit, and
your phase one seitan.
Yeah,
got it. We have more questions to ask, but first, it's time for us to ask the immortal question. What do you do? What do you do with tofu? Indeed. What is it that you do with tofu? There's a question we ask in every edition of this podcast. It's just like, what's your go-to tofu recipe? It's been fascinating learning, what each person tends to do with a block of tofu. It doesn't have to be particularly highfalutin. It's just interesting. Brian, let's start with you.
I love to make tofu scrambles for any meal kind of thing. I don't really separate out breakfast, lunch, or whatever. But tofu scramble is absolutely fantastic. And also, I use tofu in a ton of things. My most often method of making tofu is deep frying it, pressing the water out first, and then deep frying it, and then using it in a variety of things. That's in plenty of the episodes, even starting with episode 1.
Right. And you sort of nonchalantly talk about scramble. What constitutes a tofu scramble? Some people are just like, it's just pure tofu.
Well,
some people are like, go on.
I've got a whole video on it actually with Michael Winslow from the Police Academy series. Episode 21. The guy that played Jones in Police Academy did all the sound effects and everything. But basically I cut the tofu into very thin pieces and press all the water out first, then put some vegan butter in a pan and get that all heated up, and then I take those thin pieces and sort of put them around the pan, and that allows it to kind of get a slightly like crispy texture in a sense, not crispy, but like kind of egg-like in a sense of what you when you would cook an egg, and then flip them over, and then when those get kind of crispy, then I scramble them all up, and and then add whatever spices you want. I add, now you have to spice it pretty well because tofu is pretty bland, but throw in a ton of different spices, anything.
What do you go to? What do you reach for? Because I'm always fascinated.
Okay. So garlic powder, onion powder, pepper, salt, hint of turmeric if you want that color. Maybe some sriracha as well will also give it a little bit of that color. Some Italian seasoning blend. I throw some Creole seasoning blend in there, and yeah. It's all in the video as well. And it's all in the book.
Sure. So. Well, I'm sure people will be checking it out. But I see it's a really interesting. You say, "Oh, I just do a scramble." It's like, well, you know what?
No. And honestly, the method is the it, not exactly the ingredients. That is something that I kind of push throughout all the videos and the book. Is that it's not an ingredient. Like the method, like that slicing it thin and doing things, that adds far more to the taste and texture than the exact amount of any ingredient.
So we should change this item from "what do you do with tofu" to "how do you do it?"
Yeah.
Sure.
Steve, what do you do with tofu and how do you do it?
You can get some really nice smoked tofus here, and I like just cubing those up and putting those in a stir fry or even on a salad. There's some really, really good smoked tofus. And smoking seems to be the one flavour that tofu seems to hold. It holds it really well.
I got to say, I did after we did a barbecue special a couple of episodes back, and following on from that, I barbecued tofu for the first time the other day, and with a date molasses marinade, and man, it was good. It was smoky and oh man. Anyway, Giana, I'm sorry, I'm sort of lost in a reverie now. What do you do with tofu and how do you do it?
Well, tofu, I eat it every day. I think it's very interesting though that in Asia, tofu is a legit food. Like they eat it every day. I mean, and for us, it's some sort of a meat substitute or a source of protein. But the way that I make it, it's very simple. I cut it in cubes. I press it, cut it in cubes. Marinate it with whatever I have in hand, like some acid, salt, some sugar, a little bit of oil, and that's it. It's nothing much in.
So Jana may be in the market for a second-hand tofu press there, Steve. We can hook you up afterwards.
I use my cutting boards.
Yeah. What do you go for in terms of acid?
Lemon or lime, vinegar, something like that. Because you build blocks of flavors. When you add those 5 flavors, you make everything round. I mean, at least in my opinion. So yeah, simple as that. And then I put it on salads and everything. And it's so good. These small little cube ones. And because it's so small, it holds the flavors better because you have more surface and a little bit of tofu. So if you're a beginner and you're not friends with tofu, I think I would go for that, I think.
Top tips, all of you. Thank you very much indeed. Let's get back to your questions. Don't forget, you can always ask us a question about any kind of plant-based food. You could simply just say, look, I'm bored of cucumbers. We're here to help. It's podcast@veganlifemag.com. And we will try and field your question to the right people. So it might take us a week or two, but we'll get there. Just before we get back to listener questions, I wanted to talk about flavors and stuff because something that I've really enjoyed with the Seitan-Making I've done, and I haven't done much, it's the fact that, you're making effectively kind of a fake meat product, but what's really exciting is that you can, rather than, with eating meat or cooking meat, people are literally thumbing flavor into the flesh, like either shoving a lemon up a chicken's bum or having to like puncture the flesh and thumb garlic in there. We can put it in from the ground up, right? Because you're making this stuff from scratch. And I wondered, have any of you tried any kind of slightly more off the beaten path flavors rather than just a kind of a stock or there's some amazing vegan stock flavors now. I got to say, I just tried Oxo in the UK. I've brought out a vegan beef stock and it tastes incredible. I can't wait to try it in Seitan. But have any of you experimented with any kind of more out there flavors? Jana, what about you?
Oh, I don't know. You got me there. It's been such a while now that I don't make seitan because if not, I'm going to do it every day. It's a substance abuse. It is. Thanks to Brian there.
Really?
Yeah. So no, I don't know. I would like to hear you more about that actually.
Because I did one where I like sort of pureed some sun-dried tomatoes and I put that in so that you had this kind of quite what's the word I'm looking for?
Umami.
It's quite a nice gleeky kind of, it's a nice rich kind of flavor. I did it once with pulped mango, and that, you know, it was a fun experiment, but I don't recommend it. Brian, have you dabbled with anything? You know,
I used to a little bit, but quite honestly, I mostly like to make a very neutral, as neutral tasting seitan as I can, and that because that allows me to change it however I want later, because it makes a whole lot of it, and I probably don't want to eat an entire week's worth of the exact same tasting thing.
A week's worth is like sort of 25 kilos. Right?
yeah, roughly.
If you're doing it right.
And
just thinking of you, Elena.
Yeah, and so like I mean I've had several different store-bought seitans that already have like a lot of sort of flavor profiles chosen into it, and I mean, I guess it's okay if that's what you want. And I prefer just keeping it neutral and then changing the flavors per dish.
That's an interesting point. Few people put ketchup into the food before they serve it. Steve, what about you?
I had this idea of trying to make a pastrami style seitan. So I thought the first thing I'm going to get the look right. So I went at huge expense, bought some beetroot powder, and I did it in, and it went this really strange browny pink colour, nothing like pastrami whatsoever, and it added a beetroot flavour, which I quite like, but it's not to everybody's taste. So
I got beef with beetroot too. It's sort of one step. It's the sort of tempeh of the vegetable world, if you ask me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's been the extent of my experimentation of sort of weird sort of adding strange flavors or different flavors to it.
Yeah, that's a top tip, I think, of yours, Brian. It was just like, don't, you know, like it's very rare that you, well, but it's rare that you flavor bread, you know, the idea being that, you know, you're going to put different things on it. It's the same kind of concept, isn't it? Yeah. There's a lovely email we've had here saying, I'm enjoying the podcast and I've subscribed to the magazine because of it. I should also confess that I'm currently a badly lapsed vegetarian. It's okay, Dave. Who once dabbled in veganism. We welcome you back, brother. Come on. He says, I'd be interested in the panel's take on lava bread. I don't know how many of you are going to know about that. It's quite a localized thing. He says, I think I like the idea of lava bread more than the thing itself. So every so often I buy a job lot and then wonder how to get rid of it. What is it with people buying like 25 kilos of products? A small amount is quite nice on toast or in the classic Welsh oat patty, but I haven't seen any good recipes otherwise. So if you don't know, lava bread is it's like a puree really of seaweed. It's kind of seasoned and it's this kind of sloppy stuff. Yeah, it's an acquired taste. Yeah. Dave says, in my opinion, the taste of the sea is a bit too strong to be a dominant ingredient, so I'd need to be convinced about things like lava bread pesto. I'm wondering if the vegan perspective will bring anything different to the table. Anyway, I have 6 tins of the bloody stuff to get rid of, so any ideas are welcome. Cheers, Dave. He also says, P.S. I agree that before cooking, tempeh needs to be put in a muslin bag and soaked in a free-running stream for a week, or as long as it takes to wash away the tempeh. Yes, I'd rather eat the muslin bag, but
no.
Lava bread. Have any of you dabbled in lava bread? Have you eaten it? What do you think of it, Steve? I figured you might.
Yeah, so so here's a Welsh thing. I've got a friend in Wales. I went to see her. It was just before lockdown, and there was a market stall there, and they literally had a whole sort of chiller full of lava bread, freshly cooked, and it is a dark green sludge that is because it's really heavily boiled and boiled down till it's really concentrated.
It's a good word, sludge.
Yeah, and it does look disgusting. I love the taste of seaweed, so I bought some, brought it back, and I will literally just pan fry it and eat it as is. I don't have to disguise the flavour, but I can understand for some people that would be a bit too much. I have actually made it myself because I couldn't find. I'd love to know where this guy gets it from because I couldn't find anywhere where I could get it. So what I did was I bought,
Again, look, we'll hook you up. This is just turning into swap shop.
Because it's basically, I think it's a nori seaweed that it's made from. So I bought nori sheets, the stuff you make sushi from.
Yeah.
And I literally got a pan of boiling water and I stuffed a load of these sheets in and boiled it down.
You'd need like 15,000 of those sheets.
Yeah, but
it
was a few packs. It was not a cost-effective way of making lava bread, and I got somewhere near to lava bread. But I think it's traditionally served so it's a breakfast served with bacon and sausages and that sort of thing. It's a kind of a side dish to breakfast.
Yeah, you were saying that, and I was
Jana,
thinking about
have you tried it?
Tofu bacon in a toast with it would be really good.
That would be good. Jana, have you tried lava bread?
I have not, but I Googled it because I thought it was samphire or something like that.
Right. Samphire is lovely.
Yeah, I am very curious to try that. But no.
And I think the real kind of issue in a way with lava bread is texture, and where samphire has this kind of pleasing, kind of crunchy bite to it.
It's fresh, right?
Lava bread, as you say, is sludge. Brian, have you tried lava bread?
I've not tried it, but when I looked it up, the main idea that I had is what I would oftentimes do with. I love to buy various seaweeds from the Asian store. And be it either the sushi nori sheets or the seasoned ones or the or even like dried kelps and stuff like that, and you have to rehydrate those, and that forms into a sort of a pile of what that sort of looks like. Although the kelp looks a little bit better, honestly. But so how different does it taste from like a rehydrated kelp or something like that?
It's a really, really strong flavor because it's been boiled and boiled and boiled, so it's really intense.
Gotcha. Maybe then I would almost use it as like a seasoning in like a Japanese style rice ball or something, like an onigiri or musubi and probably a little bit goes a long way, and then along with other things. But I mean, like a kelp and chili oil. Rice ball is really good with like you make sort of a sushi rice and then then that filling and then put it on top and with some other seaweed on the outside to wrap it in.
Yeah.
I think for me the problem with lava bread and Dave, I don't know if you agree with this, but it is the texture, and there are some foods that are supposed to be a certain portion size. Like if someone offered you an olive the size of a watermelon and said, how big a slice would you like? You'd be like, I don't know, that's weird, I can't handle that. And lava bread's kind of like that. I think we're trying to eat too much of it at a time. A little smear of it, like you say, on actually, it could be great on seitan in a kind of burger bun with like some capers, and you're doing a kind of a seafoody thing. I think you could give it a great flavor note and a nice hit, and you wouldn't have too much of the actual texture of it.
Like Marmite.
Kind of sludging between your teeth. Kind of like Marmite. Yeah, exactly. I think I'd be inclined to use it more as a condiment than as the main attraction. So I would say, whip yourself up a batch of good seitan, bread it, fry it, stick it in a bun with a smear of that. See, I'd be up for that.
It actually doesn't the seaweed have a lot of essentially natural MSG in it, sort of like Marmite in a sense. So it
possibly.
I think it would almost be more like a condiment than a.
I would say it depends on where you harvest it, because there are some places around the British coast where it's really not MSG that you're harvesting. It's let's not go into it. Graham says, hi, my name is Graham. Can we all say hi, Graham? 1, 2, 3.
Hi, Graham.
Hi, Graham.
Hi, Graham.
And I'm a chili addict. That's okay, Graham. We're not here to judge you. You're safe. He says, could you please give us a great spicy seitan recipe? So, Brian, let's jump in with you, because I'm guessing for you this is all about the sauce or the marinade or whatever.
Exactly. I mean, it's a spicy seitan chicken style sandwich. You take some after you make your raw seitan. then just take some flour and put some spices in it. Put some chili powder or some cayenne pepper, or some seasoning blends that are spicy, and maybe some onion powder and garlic powder and whatever spices you want in there, and just kind of mix it into the flour and make that into a semi-thick. Just make it to a batter that can coat the seitan. Then take some panko breadcrumbs that you get from the Asian store and put that in a separate, just like a pot, and just pour a little pile in the pot, and then add not quite as many spices as you added to the flour, but just enough because it's going to be on the outside. And then you're going to take your battered seitan bits and drop it in the pot and just kind of shake the pot around a little bit, and it coats the seitan, and then just drop that in the deep fryer, and it'll come out looking like one of the pictures on my Instagram.
That sounds. I'm going to go to your Instagram now, and I might need a little private time with it. Steve, what about you?
We make a pepperoni that's quite spicy, and basically it's just you in the mix. We just use chili flakes and chili powder, and you balance it off with a bit of smoked paprika as well, and that's a really nice sort of mix, and a bit of garlic, and that makes a really nice savoury but sort of spicy finish to it. Which you can do for homemade as well. So that works really well.
Yeah.
We keep recording these podcasts around meal times, and it's killing me now. I find this so hard. I'm so ready to eat. Jana, what about you?
I think that the good old buffalo wings, it always works.
Buffalo wings.
Always works.
Oh, man.
And
so how would you do those?
Just like Brian mentioned, just bread it, deep fried it, and then right after you deep fried it, you throw it in a buffalo chili mixture, and that's it. Like super easy. Or the good old Mongolian beef.
Who doesn't love Mongolian beef? Well, the Mongolians, we know
They don't know that.
They don't know. Yeah, they've never heard of it.
They never what the hell? No.
That's awesome.
Can I just say we've got National Seitan Day on October the 18th, which is the anniversary of the birth of the guy George Osawa who came up with the term seitan.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, who do you know about this guy?
He brought the recipe over to the West. He founded the macrobiotic movement.
Wow.
So he's a big mover and shaker in the sort of nutritional world back in the day. I mean, he died in 1966, not that long ago, and he came up with the word seitan because and SEI means vegetable or proper, and tan means protein, and his birthday is October the 18th. So we've nominated that as National Seitan Day.
Brilliant.
That's brilliant. Are you planning any celebrations? Because it's the day after my birthday, and I'm going to keep the party going.
No, we are. We're going to do some big things. Hopefully, lockdown will be behind us. We can do some things in person as well as just online. And it's going to be a big celebration.
Well, keep us posted, won't you?
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah.
We'll definitely.
The lady that bought the 25 kilos of it should provide.
There you go. She can cater. Yeah. Elena, you've got the recipes now.
Yeah.
Get to it. You've got until October. And then we must leave it. It's time for you to get out there and get kneading, or not kneading. I mean, anyway, you know how to do it now. Of course you do. Thanks to all of my guests. You can find Chef Jana on social media. That's Jana, Giana Pinero. And don't forget her book is 10 Vegan Weekend Meals, which is also on the YouTube and stuff. If you want to find out more about Steve Swindon's products, you can head to www.loveseitan.com. Do make sure you get the spelling right. And Brian Manowitz is everywhere as vegan black metal chef, and his satanic spell book is out for sale right now. Don't forget that the Vegan Life magazine is available from all good shops, also online at veganlifemag.com, where you can subscribe and save a little bit of money. There's also an app if you're into the app thing, and please drop us a line. We love hearing from you. It's podcast@veganlifemag.com, Also, if you would subscribe if you haven't, if you would share it with someone that you think might enjoy it, it is really the only way we can get the podcast to grow, and it will make a world of difference, and it will help us to keep making it. That's it for this week from me, Jake Yapp. Bye-bye. This has been a Swanburst Media production.